With the bases loaded and one out. Oh, deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here. Second and walk-off home run. Grand slam, Bryce Harper.
It's going to decide the game.
Fourth and goal.
Here's Iverson, eludes the defender, stays right where Allen wants to go, wants the baseline, fade away, yeah! He's way too good! He steps around Lou and drilled it, and the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. 7 straight points by Iverson. Looked like he was dead in the water. The Sixers by 4.
And welcome to the Sports Skill Radio Show presented by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. We are happy to have you here on this Memorial Day weekend, May the 30th, 2021. We have a great show for you today. We just want to thank all those who are serving in our armed forces, all those that have served. We appreciate all your service. And, of course, we mourn all of those who have given their all and given their lives in defense of our nation and our country. We thank you for your service. Please join in on the conversation by posting your comments. We will get to them during the show. It is always great to hear your comments during the show. So don't be afraid to comment on any of the topics that we are chatting about. Anything that we may bring up, go ahead and post in the comment field, and we will get to that. I am Jeff. I am joined by my brother Jay, Michael Nibia, the coach Shane McGowan, Alex Secchia. So we have a great bunch of guys here today. Don't be afraid also to go to sportskillradio.com and check out all our podcasts, of course, on Spotify and Anchor.fm. If you want to leave a rant, if you don't want to post a comment, you can always leave a rant on Anchor.fm. So please go right ahead and do that. We just want to remind everybody to check out Shane's website, mentalageperformance.ca, and don't miss Shane's articles in USHA High School Sports and Train Magazine. Always give him a follow on Twitter and Instagram. And, he always enjoys having many more followers join in and what he has to say. He always posts some great articles and some great opinions. So don't be afraid to like him on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, and Twitter, obviously. We have a great show on top of you today. We're going to start out with the NBA and talk a little Sixers. We will get into some baseball, obviously, and get into some NHL as the NHL playoffs are really going strong at this point. And we might even get to some, the Indianapolis 500, which is also taking place today. So we'll try and get to all of that, but we'll start out with the Sixers. The Sixers obviously won again. And here they are. They say they sit up 3-0 in the series and are well on their way to advancing to the second round of the playoffs. The Wizards just, not a very good team, and they're definitely overmatched in this series. So I'll put it out there to the group. Your thoughts on this series, because there really isn't a whole lot to say about this series, except how well Joel Embiid is playing, and how well the Sixers are handling the Wizards at this point.
Jeff, I got mine right here in my hands.
Sweep, yeah, broom.
Sweep
Sweep them, baby.
It wasn't that we didn't predict it before this series started. There were a lot of people who predicted that there would be a sweep in this series. So, Shane, what are your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they're playing like a team for once. I mean, that's amazing that you could play 3 games like that as a team, getting contributions from everybody, including off the bench. Danny Green has stepped up his game as well. You know what I mean? But let's face it, Washington just does not look good. I mean, Westbrook is not at all. He's injured in certain things. Beal can't do. They're playing great defense. Give Sixers all the credit for the defense that they're playing. I mean, that's what they do. Like I said, I mean, I don't think it's much of a shock that we've, against the Washington team. I do think, though, that, like I said, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to see as the game goes on and advance to the next round, and who they're going to play is now going to be their challenge.
Well, I think even who they play, in the second round, if you look at the possibilities that are there, it's not all that appetizing to begin with. The Knicks do not look all that good, and a lot of people are already writing their death warrant in this series against the Atlanta Hawks. So, there's not a lot of Knicks fans, obviously, were right on that bandwagon last Sunday as we were talking, and now they can't seem to get off fast enough as it looks like they're a little overmatched against those, Atlanta Hawks. Of course, they'll play today, 1 o'clock. So, we'll see if the Knicks can obviously knot up the series or whether the series is just about over. But I don't think that either one of these clubs is going to pose that big of a threat to the Sixers in the second round. I think the Sixers are going to get, their first test maybe in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, we'll see about that. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I want to hear what Shane said first because the team was clicking on all cylinders. Embiid scoring in the high 20s. I think he had 25 points. Tobias Harris having 32 points. These guys are moving the ball. And if you look at all 3 of the games, it's not even like the Wizards are close to them, Sixers going 120, 130, 115. Like they're putting up high points. I just hope it's not one of those things where you see a team click as soon as playoff starts and then you see the decrease go down and the production in the playing, as the game gets harder because the Bucks just swept Miami, right? Teams you're starting off hot, but you got to continue that going through. And the Knicks were another team that we talked about being those guys we got to watch out for coming up on top of the Sixers.
Yeah, I just, I watched the Knicks, obviously, and, I'm just concerned right now that this team is kind of getting a little overmatched here against Atlanta. That's not a good thing. We'll hopefully see today whether or not the Knicks can pull out a victory and knot up that series, because if they don't, then it's basically over, and, Atlanta's going to move on. So,
we've seen it before. It's only a 1-game difference right now. It's only
if you're 3-1, you're basically screwed.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless you're the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I agree with Mike on that one. I just feel that you lose this game here today, and basically the series is over. But for the Sixers, hey, they're just gonna, I think, roll right now, right on through the second round, and head into the conference finals at this point, because I don't see anybody, because they're not going to face, they're not going to face Milwaukee. It doesn't look like, they're not going to face the Nets. They can't face the Nets. So at this point, it looks like their first test really of this playoff season may be in the Eastern Conference Finals. So we'll see about that. I know my brother is hot and heavy on the Sixers right now, and it's feeling like they're going to win a championship.
Well, I didn't say that, Jeff. What I said was the Sixers were going to make the Sixers. I would expect them to make at the very least the Eastern Conference Finals. That's the bar that has been set.
Because
Jay, the coach should be the team should be fired, embarrassed, whatever it is, if they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals with who they're
exactly.
I mean. You look at the competition and it's ugly until they get to the finals. I mean, they should if they lose one game in this stretch, that's a lot going to these teams.
Well, yeah, you would, I expect the Sixers to close out the series tomorrow night.
Because the Wizards have basically quit. So.
When you can just see it when the Sixers get out to that double-digit lead. It just takes all the life, all the will, all the competitiveness, all the heart out of Washington.
No, Washington just stinks. You can just say it. Washington just stinks.
Well, they made the playoffs, so you have to give them credit for that. But the fact of the matter is,
nice of them to show up. I will say that. Nice of Washington to show up.
Well, they don't match up. They don't match up well with the Sixers. That's the problem. Right. And when you get Joel, and not a lot of teams will, when Joel Embiid is playing as well as he is, when Ben Simmons is playing as well as he is, and you get the perimeter scoring the way the Sixers have, with the bench coming off and bench players, Seth Curry and the guys playing defense and shooting threes as well as they are, not a lot of teams will match up well against the 76ers. I mean, you got Joel Embiid being a monster in there right now. I mean, he's taking.
Yeah, he looks great. I'll tell you what, he looks great against a Washington team. Let's see how he does.
But they don't match up well.
Let's see how he does against Milwaukee, or let's see how he does against the Nets. In the conference finals, because that's going to be the true test. Other than that, he can basically take fourth quarters off. So
yeah, well, that's what's been happening, and what's going to happen too. We have to discuss this is Ben Simmons making his free throws, because that's going to jump out a little bit more as we go along in these NBA playoffs. Ben Simmons has not made a free throw yet. And it's okay when you're playing as well as the Sixers are and have the matchup advantage they do against Washington. But like you say, when you go up against Brooklyn or you go up against the New York Knicks or a better team.
The Knicks right now. I can't look at the Knicks, Randall. I can't look at the Knicks right now and say they're any better than than Washington or like.
Oh, the Knicks are better. I would say the Knicks are better than Washington. They're scrappier. They have more heart. I think the Knicks are better than Washington. But
they haven't looked at it in this series.
Well, again, you look at the matchup. Who are they playing? How well do they match up?
Everybody, no, there are no excuses for the Knicks to be back and for everything, for the Knicks to show, okay, we're back, we're this team, and the confidence that they had going into the playoffs, they had to win this series. That's the bottom line. And they look overmatched really against Atlanta. We'll see today whether or not the Knicks have some heart and they can pull out a win today against the Hawks today. That's going to be the true test today. Today is the biggest game of the Knicks season. There's no question about it. Because if they lose today, the series is over. So at that point they can they can lick their wounds. They can sort of figure out, okay. We made the playoffs. We had a great regular season, but then we were a train wreck in the playoffs. So, and that's and the Knicks will have to figure that out as they go into the offseason if they can't pull out a win today. Today is basically the biggest game the Knicks have played all season, and we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see what kind of heart the Knicks have today, whether or not they can come out and knot up this series and make this thing into a best of three. Because if they go down 3-1, it's over. I mean, it's over, and Atlanta, will move on and play the Sixers.
Oh yeah, no question about it. I agree with you. The Knicks are coming back from a 3-1 deficit.
Sure.
I don't care how much heart they have, how scrappy they are, how well they play together. You go down 3-1, and you're probably not going to come back from that. I give you that, Jeff. Absolutely.
I don't care about
you got LeBron James.
Where's the heart? Where I want to see it. Where's the heart? And they got to prove it today against the Hawks. There's another local team, obviously, that also lost, and that is the Brooklyn Nets, and they took a loss. So obviously they're kind of licking their wounds as they go into their game tonight in prime time. So we'll see what Boston has in store tonight. But Boston can be a thorn in the side, especially when you got a full crowd on hand, and they'll pack in all the fans up there in Boston, and as we saw last night in Boston in the hockey game. I mean, they're going to pack them into a sellout crowd. It should be a great atmosphere to watch up there in Boston between Brooklyn and Boston. But it'll just be interesting to see. And I'll put this to the coach: whether or not Brooklyn can bounce back here, or whether you feel that Boston has kind of found maybe a chink in the armor. Because my feeling is, watching that game, watching that last game between Brooklyn and Boston, for the most part, you look at the big three, and 2 out of the 3 got the points that they wanted, Shane. I mean, they got all the points, they scored all the points, but it really didn't matter because you had one guy basically go off for Boston, and that proved to be the difference there in that last game. Shane?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, yep. You guys hear me?
Yes.
I hear you.
Go right ahead.
All right. Now, like I said, Boston had the momentum going and everything like that. But you can't count Brooklyn out. I mean, look, they did their thing. They allowed. I think they still tried to figure out if it came through who had the hand night and who didn't. And like I said, they're going to do what they got to do. Honestly, if anybody thinks that Brooklyn isn't going to beat Boston and take that series, then I think you're a little crazy. Okay, I think Brooklyn is just doing what Brooklyn does. Those 3 guys are going to do what they got to do. And come tonight, I think somebody's going to take it upon their shoulders to just say, listen, if we're down, just feed me the ball, and I'm going to do what I got to do, whether that be Durant, that be Harden, or Irvin. One of those guys is going to step up, if not 2 of them, and just, I think, take total control. And I don't think Smart, I don't think Tatum are going to be able to do much after that. I think Tatum's playing great, though. I'll give Tatum all the credit in the world, lights out for his play and everything like that. But, I mean, I think we're throwing Trip Thomas in there and everything like this. I think they're going to take it to him and just get him in trouble, and that's it. I think you're going to see a different Brooklyn team tonight.
Yeah. I can see Kevin Durant really stepping up, because here's the thing: it's a game difference, just like the Atlanta Hawks, but it's more in the Nets' favor. The thing if you're the Nets, the thing you don't want to do is you want to put this series away fast as possible, because you're versing the Bucks next, and they're not going to be no pushover. So you want to put this series as fast as possible. You don't want to see this series for you go in the Game 6. You want to wrap this up now. These next 2 games, back-to-back wins. Take that, go right into the Bucks, have that momentum. If somehow, let's say, they lose and it keeps going back and forth, hey man, you're gonna have a hard time going against the Bucks, because they ain't gonna be no pushover.
Absolutely, and we have Jeff Schwab checking in with a comment, and we will get to this later in the show as to why the Philly media is making a big deal about Joe Girardi. We'll get to his comments later in the show when we get to our baseball segment, so we'll get to that. But we have another comment here coming up that says, I'll put this.
The more Boston can extend that series, the better for 76ers, because Brooklyn-Milwaukee should definitely go 6 or 7. And I think the Brooklyn-Milwaukee series will definitely go 6. Because to build off of what Alex is saying, Milwaukee's not going to be a pushover. They've got a tough team. They swept the very mediocre Miami team, and Milwaukee's not going to be any pushover by any stretch of the imagination. Brooklyn's going to have a tough time. They need to put Boston away quickly. They need to put Boston away at home in Game 5.
We got a comment here, and I'll put this to Alex. The more Boston can extend the series, the better for the 76ers, because Brooklyn-Milwaukee should definitely go 6 or 7 games. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize we have a comment section this whole time. These last shows we've been doing. That's my bad. I didn't realize you could see the comments. I thought it was only you guys could see as the hosts.
That's the private chat, Alex.
But yeah, I was in the private chat, I guess. But yeah, no. So here's the thing. Like, look at it. Playoff time, it's going to be huge when you got to play these these really intense games. I mean, the Raptors, Shane's team did it a few years ago where they went deep in the series and still pulled out and were able to win the finals.
They went 6 games with the 76ers.
But not every team can do that. Not every team can do that. And you with a team like the three-headed monster, right? You should be able to. You were looked at to go in. You were looked up to go in and dominate in the playoffs. If you start struggling now, it's going to be more favorable for Sixers fans. That's what we want to see. We want to see you struggle, right? We want to see this happen early because by the time we face you, it'll be more of an easier win for us. That's even if we face you if you're really struggling. But I think Kevin Durant is going to be the guy who's going to stand out. I think he's going to stand out in this game. That's my prediction. He's going to really rain on. I do see the Nets going 3-1 after. I do see the Nets going 3-1. I think they're going to put it away.
I think that this is going to be a very interesting game, prime time tonight, to see what Boston can accomplish here. Whether they can put another game like the last game back to back in this series, because that's going to be tough when you consider the fact that I honestly. You saw what Harden did. We saw what they got, obviously, out of Durant. So we know that they can score. We know they can. But the question is whether they can play well enough defensively to stop Tatum, to stop Brooklyn from getting into the paint and
getting into that 30-point range.
They definitely, after the Nets got out to that big lead, Boston came back and they just were able to hold the Nets off throughout the
Nets need to get a big lead and hold it.
So at that point, so we'll see what happens tonight in that game. I want to get Shane's opinion right now. When you look at the Boston crowd, obviously the crowd is going to get awfully loud, and they definitely had some boos that were raining down there, kind of skating down, and it didn't seem to affect one member of the Big Three there, Coach
Kyrie Irving.
That's correct. Coach?
No. Didn't affect Kyrie at all. You know what I mean?
He didn't put up the point total that you expect, but he didn't have the greatest game that you'd want out of Kyrie Irving. But and that's something that obviously the Nets would obviously like to get going to see all three kind of get going on the same night. To get Kyrie Irving going, obviously with Harden and Durant, and get kind of contributions from the bench. But otherwise, if you look at it, you kind of look at Boston and you say, can Boston get that kind of performance out of Tatum on a night by night? I just don't think that Tatum can sustain that throughout a series and put up those kind of points throughout an entire series, and that's what Boston really needs. If they're going to hold off the Nets here.
Well, first off with Tatum, I think we got to look at and say in the last 6 games, he's dished out close to 30s, 40 point and gone up to 50. I think he even set some record with those guys or made it on the Boston record score of 50 plus points. So the problem is that Kemba Walker didn't play up to snuff either. He was in a little bit of a shooting slump himself, which was good in some ways that allowed Tatum to do his thing. Boston, like I said, Boston's going to do what they got to do with those guys with Smart, Kemba, and Tatum. Still think that Kyrie may have taken the night off and didn't play as well as he should have. All right. Durant did his thing, Harden, but I got a feeling that tonight you're going to just see a different. I think they put a little bit more with Claxton on and Griffin on Tatum too to make things a little bit more tougher. Look at those guys got to foul, they got to foul. You know what I mean? But again, too, is like I said, you're going to do what you got to do to slow the guy down. I just think though that Harden and those guys are going to play a little bit more ball control this time around too. I don't think they're just going to keep just going down, take a shot. I think they're going to play a little bit more ball control just to kind of wear out Boston a little bit in that way too. Instead of playing a fast-paced type of game, I think they want to slow it down a little bit, getting control. That's what they've done for their first games.
Are you surprised, obviously, by the sweep of Milwaukee? I mean, by Milwaukee, I should say.
No.
Because we talked last Sunday. Obviously, we were talking about the fact that, oh my gosh, Milwaukee didn't exactly look that good in Game 1, but they were to pull it out, in overtime, and then all of a sudden they took off like a rocket there in Games 2, 3, and 4, and really put the hammer down in that series. And now they're sitting there waiting, obviously, for we would think Brooklyn, obviously, to get through their series, but we'll have to wait and see on that to see what happens there. But Milwaukee obviously showed some teeth really in this series, getting in there and getting out with a sweep. Shane.
Yeah, and look at you got two guys playing for Miami. You got Butler and you got Bam. That's it. The rest of the team is off. They might sit on the bench. Hero hasn't done anything all season. He hasn't done anything throughout this series anyways. They don't even count on if you want to bet, they don't even put him on the DraftKings because he's that bad. All right. So like I said, it's not the guys you want to go to. You're two guys on Miami, and they can't carry that team. Milwaukee's got the team right now, and they're playing lights out in that way. So like I said, it shouldn't be a shock. Miami put everything onto two guys, and the rest of the team couldn't do anything. It's simple as that. So yeah, Milwaukee's going to advance.
And then, of course, we go out west, and we got the Lakers today in a big matchup, obviously, as the Lakers try and take control of that series. So we'll see what happens with the Lakers today, because they've got obviously put their hammer down in that series, and we'll see what the defending champs have there. Alex.
Sorry, I have my mic muted. Yeah, yes. Big series against the Suns, Lakers. Another series that's one game apart. It's 2-1 the Lakers. But
I think the Lakers go up 3-1 today.
Huh?
I think the Lakers go up 3-1 today.
Yeah, they're home. You got a home game, right? They're playing home today. I think they can go 3-1.
And if they do, I think that series is just about over for the and the defending champs will move on. I think a more compelling series out west is the Clippers series. We saw that in the last game. I'm kind of enthused with this series because it's definitely been a very competitive. It's definitely been a very competitive series, and you're kind of looking here to see. Because you kind of expected the Clippers to come into this series and kind of roll a little bit, and it's been anything but there, Shane.
Shane,
most definitely. Like I said, Clipper. Look at Clippers. Clippers are time playing right now. Playing hard. I don't know what it is. It's like as soon as they get the playoffs, they can't play. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They're getting themselves into such a mess out there. And give kudos to Dallas. I mean, like I said, they're just Luka is just on his own in his own world. That guy's in his own world, doing his thing and being very, very dynamic out there. And just like I said, I don't know what it is with the Clippers, but every time they get into the postseason like this, they bomb.
Do you think
it's terrible? Go ahead, Alex.
Do you think Luka plays today, Shane? I mean, he's questionable, but do you think he's going to play? And if he plays the whole game, if he does
he's going to play.
He'll play?
Yeah. It's going to depend on the score. Put it that way.
Okay.
If losing, they're going to pull him. And if they're winning by a lot, they're going to pull him too. So either way, they're going to pull him at some point in the fourth.
Yeah, okay.
I think the fascinating part about this whole series, from my standpoint, is seeing the two billionaires sitting there on the sidelines. You got Steve Ballmer on one side for the Clippers, and then, of course, on the other side, you've got Mark Cuban. So I think this is you're seeing those two guys kind of you're seeing the headshots of those two guys watching their respective clubs. It's kind of an interesting dynamic in the series. Looking not only at Lukic and what you got and the play in there, but you've also got obviously two billionaires going head to head in this series.
Well, you got that, Jeff. But the other thing that's fascinating about the series is I don't think the Clippers are going to win this. And when they lose, they're going to probably be blown up. And they got rid of the coach last year, Doc Rivers. Thank you, LA Clippers, for doing that. And obviously, it wasn't anything to do with Doc Rivers causing the Clippers to lose in the playoffs last season, because they're doing as good or worse than they did last year in this year's playoffs. So
the coach is always the first to be blamed for a team's loss.
And it wasn't Doc Rivers' fault last year, obviously. There are much worse issues going on with the Clippers, and they're just a mess right now. They don't have first-round draft picks, so the Clippers could wind up being irrelevant for quite some time after losing in this year's playoffs. And they share the building with the LA Lakers, so they're going to have to sit back and watch Big Brother kind of dominate for a while.
See, I disagree that Steve Ballmer would ever allow this club to be, and also ran.
He doesn't have the assets. Where are his assets? They traded away first-round draft picks. They're not going to have the assets to be able to trade and remain relevant. I mean, they're not going to be a good team. And like you say, I agree with you about Ballmer. He didn't buy this team to be irrelevant, but unfortunately, that's where the Clippers are going to find themselves.
I just find it hard to believe that as far as the Clippers have come, that Steve Ballmer is just going to say, okay, now we can go out and we can be the ugly stepchild in that arena. I just don't believe Steve Ballmer would if he can help it. I don't think Steve Ballmer would allow it. If it comes down to spending, if it comes down to money, it's not gonna. It's Steve Ballmer will not allow that.
Ballmer's got the money. He's got the power. He can turn the Clippers into the New York Knicks.
I completely, and not if you don't have the assets. And by the way, you say he has the money, but let me tell you, he can only offer a player so much money, and the players will look at where the team is and the team's future. So it takes two to tango. He can offer them so much money, but this isn't like baseball or anything. You can only offer a free agent a certain amount, and if they don't think the Clippers are going to be a contending team, then they're going to go to a team that they feel is better, has a better chance of getting an NBA championship. So you're
going to see one of those two.
Go ahead, Shane.
You're going to see either Kawhi gone or George gone. You're going to see one of those two guys gone at the end of the season upon this blowout that they lose to, because like I said, Dallas is going to take them. Clippers are going to be done. You're going to see one of those two up on the trade block to get some, as we said, assets in, right? Pay to get this team back into it, because like I said, that's what it's come down to, and everybody up there is saying that one of these guys is going to be gone.
So I think it's going to be, as my brother said, it'll be interesting developments to watch in the offseason with the Clippers, just to see what happens with that franchise and to see how that franchise, moves forward. Because obviously, like Shane said, Kawhi is going to be gone. Kawhi could be gone, or George is going to be gone. One of the two. They're going to split them up. They're going to try to see exactly what they have, what pieces they have left, and in that conference, it could be a tough road. I just think Steve Ballmer is going to find a way to try and keep as much talent as he can in LA to try and stay as relevant as he can. Given the fact that he's dealing with the LA Lakers in that same building, it's kind of
and the
like, okay, I want my press as well, and I want to make sure that my franchise is still as relevant in LA as the Lakers. So we'll see, because obviously change is going to happen with the Clippers. Especially if they go out again here in the first round, which is looking very, very likely in this series. So we'll see what happens. Any other comments on the NBA that we need to get to, guys? All right. Here, we're going to move on then. We're going to move on to Major League Baseball because there's a lot to get to as far as Major League Baseball goes. I want to bring in my brother on this because we had a comment from Jeff Schwab, obviously, and I want to bring in Jay on this because, this is a great question from Jeff, and I'll get to this right off the bat because this was a big topic during the week with Joe Girardi. So I'll put the question right to you, Jay. Why is the Philly media making such a big deal about Joe Girardi's lying about Harper's health?
Well, I think because, and I think this is going to be a bigger deal going forward. It's because he's cutting off a little bit more access to the media. I mean, the media right now, before the game, after the game, is basically reduced to Zoom, doing Zoom with the Phillies manager, Joe Girardi. And he came out and he was obviously a little upset, maybe a little ticked off or whatever, about the fact that he's been playing shorthanded quite often, keeping guys off the injured list and having to go up against another team, knowing that he's shorthanded on the bench, knowing that guys aren't going to be playing in a particular game. And he just wanted to go out and say to the media, you know what? I'm not going to tell you who's available, who's not available going forward. I'm going to keep that to myself. But people are going to know who's hurt, who's not. They may not be available during a given game. And I think it was in response to a question about Gene Segura, because he used Gene Segura. Gene Segura batted during an inning, and then he was replaced subsequently by Maton in the field. And they were like, "Wait a minute! If you're gonna bat Segura, why are you suddenly replacing him with Maton in the field?" A legitimate question, a strategy question. And then Joe launched into that. Well, I'm not gonna let anybody know who's available and who's not going forward. I'm gonna keep that private. It's gonna be between the players and myself, and that's gonna be it. So that restricts a little bit more access. But I think the bigger thing here is that Major League Baseball is going to have to sit down and talk to these teams, because you look at you look at fantasy sports, you look at betting is huge right now. I mean, there's apps where you can bet within a baseball game, what's going to happen, what's not. And the more people are wagering on these games, one of the things is, if I'm wagering money on the Phillies and the Tampa Bay Rays, well, if I'm putting down money, I want to know who's available and who's not. I want to know the starting lineup. I want to know who's available off the bench and who's not, because that could affect the way I bet the game. And be a bigger issue going forward, similar like what you do with the NFL. You want to know which players are healthy, which players aren't. That's why the NFL comes out with these lists, so that people have a general idea of who's playing in the game. If Joe Girardi and the Phillies and maybe other teams are going to be holding back and aren't going to tell the media and aren't going to tell the fans and the betting public who's available and who's not, then that's going to become a bigger issue, I think, going forward. And I think the betting sites and the people are going to weigh in and say, no, if I'm wagering on a particular game, a particular at bat, whatever, I want to know who's available so that I can put down my money and wager on it. I think that's going to be the bigger issue going forward. But
I think these managers have every right to hold back on who's available and who's not. I think it's right. It's in Joe Girardi's purview whether he lets people in on injuries or not. We see this in other sports. We definitely see this in hockey with upper body injury, lower body injury in hockey. So we've seen this throughout other sports as well. Because you don't want to give an advantage to the opposing manager or the opposing coach regarding who might be available to come in late in the game and who might not be. You want to keep that manager guessing late in the game because maybe who knows, maybe that guy is available to pinch in. If he does, that may have that affects the strategy of the game. That affects whether or not you bring in a certain reliever, maybe a left-handed reliever or what have you, to prevent a manager from bringing in a certain player or who may or may not be injured on the bench. They may know that you may be guessing that player isn't available, but who knows? I mean, Joe Girardi, Joe Girardi is well within his rights to to hold back on that and.
I'm not arguing that point, Jeff. What I'm arguing is, all right, to your point, Joe Girardi, it's well within his rights to say, okay, Bryce Harper is. I'm not going to comment on.
He'll comment anybody on the injured list, as he said. He'll comment anybody that's on the injured list, and he'll give you updates on them.
Right.
He's just not going to give updates on anybody who's not.
So. Okay. So fine. Let's go back a couple of days. Bryce Harper was not on the. Let's go back a few days or a week or so. Bryce Harper is not on the injured list. Okay, not in the starting lineup. Okay, would you? Here's the thing: if you're betting $500 on the Phillies and Tampa Bay Rays or whatever, and Bryce Harper isn't in the starting lineup. And you're going to plop down $500 on who wins and who loses that game, would you want to know if Bryce Harper is eligible to pinch hit or not? I would think yes.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have the information.
Yeah, I think hell yeah. I think hell yes. And that's where I think it's going to be the bigger issue going forward.
Anybody who's betting $500 on the Phillies is nuts.
Well, okay, whatever. Pick a team. The LA Dodgers, whatever, that's the thing. You want to know who's eligible to come off the bench and pinch hit. And if a guy isn't eligible, isn't going to play during that game, that could affect the way you wager that game. And that's all I'm saying is that Major League Baseball.
That's part of gambling. That's part of, speculating in your own mind whether you believe that guy's going to play or not. That's part of, hey, if you want to bet, a bunch of money, go right ahead and speculate all you want, whether you believe that guy's going to come in or not. That's part of betting. That's part of, that's part of.
But that's why the NFL does what it does with the list and everything. Probable, doubtful, whatever. And then you get to the game time and you know.
But the thing is, you could say that about NBA. You could say the same thing about NBA.
Very true.
All right. When it comes to betting, those guys have come out there and taken a shot. They come out, take a shot, and all of a sudden, guess what? He's not playing the game. And you've bet on this guy in your DraftKings and FanDuel and everything like this. And now you're out. You're out a 50-point night because he decides, I don't want to play today. You know what I mean? So baseball's doing the same thing. The only team that's legit of giving you injury reports is the NFL. NBA go up to game time. That game time. Baseball, they're doing the same thing because they said the same thing about everybody that bet. Guess what? We don't necessarily care about your betting. We're just going to do what we got to try to mix and match and not get the other team any type of keep them on their toes, as they say.
The only thing is, I've only seen this happen with football. I do not do a lot. I don't do a lot. I do it occasionally where sports betting on FanDuel Sportsbook. If a player comes to the game and you had him in your lineup, or if you had a slip with him and he happens to not play, or he gets pulled from the game, or something happens, I've seen FanDuel freeze that part of your bet but keep everything else still active. I don't know what's happening for baseball or basketball. I haven't tried it with them, but I have seen it in the NFL. So you can only assume if they do it there, they might do it for baseball and basketball. But I have seen it where players have been frozen on your bet slip. Your odds will drop, but everything else is still active. But if that player doesn't do anything, it doesn't count against your card. They just kind of freeze that, and your card's still active.
Gotcha.
So
your card's
go
active. So if I have 8 players, but if I've got 8 players that I've taken, but that one guy sits out, my card is still active. Right? The card is still active. I just don't get for that one position because it's on that guy.
Yeah.
So
the problem is like I said,
let's say out of your wide receiver or something, you might not get that production, but you'll get the rest of your lineup that you have in there.
Right. And if the rest of your lineup does good, you can still win. If one guy loses, oh, well, you lost. It doesn't matter if they froze your card, not because you lost that one slip. You know how parlays work.
Right.
Makes me glad I don't sport.
That's why a lot of people will look when it comes to betting. A lot of guys will look when it comes to betting and say, I know this guy likes to take every second game, so I ain't taking him. Even though he's a cheap price, I'm not going to take him because it takes every second off. You know what I mean? So you got to play the game like that when you start getting sports betting.
And getting onto the field issues, we obviously have 3 local teams that we deal with here on the Sportsco radio show. Yankees offense looks awful. I mean, they're terrible right now, and an ugly loss to Detroit. You have the Mets who came out and, they actually looked very good against the Atlanta Braves yesterday, bashing Atlanta.
7 runs, 6th inning explosion.
Yes, Michael. Yes, it was good to see from this offense, and it looks like they'll be getting some reinforcements coming back on Monday. They'll be getting back top reliever, and they'll be getting back one of their top players. So it looks like the Mets in general are starting to get a little bit get healthy here. The first place New York Mets, I might add, are starting to get a little bit more on the healthy side there, Mike.
Yeah, but it's going to be a while before we see guys like Syndergaard, Carrasco, those guys get back to full power. We're going to be seeing Seth Lugo back. We're going to be seeing Jacob deGrom starting today. We're going to be seeing Alonzo McNeil back in the coming days. So, slowly but surely, the Mets are going to be at full power again. And once the Mets get back to full power, watch out.
Because they have a decent enough road trip where you think they can put some wins together coming up here on this upcoming road trip. Looks like they can put some wins together on this road trip. They have some teams there that they can sort of be beat up on, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
They got Arizona coming up. They got Baltimore coming up. Should be an interesting road trip.
Yeah, it's always nice when you have Baltimore, on your
easy win.
But Jay, I got to bring you in here for the Phillies because this is ugly. I'm sorry. They have this great start from Wheeler. Certainly, Mike Nibbia would tell you, hey, Wheeler's a great pitcher, but you got to score for him. He can strike out
the syndrome.
If you're striking out the world as well, that kind of nullifies what Wheeler does in the game. So basically, here the Phillies sit. It's an ugly lineup. Yes, they got Real Muto back. That's a good thing. But Harper's up.
But you gotta score for your pitcher.
Harper is still out, and you've got some. You got some issues right now with the Phillies, and boy, these strikeouts are piling up, Jay.
Well, yeah, and it's not just, and let me just state this: it's not just the Phillies that are doing it; it's teams all over baseball. Phillies are not the top team in strikeouts. I believe that might be the Tampa Bay Rays. They've got a team or two that are ahead of them that strike out as a team more often.
Yeah, but the Rays put the ball in play. You saw that in the last game. The Rays put the ball in play.
Just enough, yeah.
Just enough. How they've won 14 out of 15. What do you want out of Tampa?
Well, that's what I mean. If they're striking out more than the Phillies,
It's
that's a
Tampa.
hell of a
What do
lot
you
of.
expect?
That's a hell of a lot of strikeouts, and that's what I'm saying. They put the ball in play just enough to get wins. The Phillies are not doing that. They'll get guys on, and then they'll strike out or hit a pop fly or whatever, and not get the runs in. And that's the difference. The Rays are doing enough to get the runs in, and not only that, they're playing better defense than the Phillies. The Phillies' defense will let them down time and time again, and we've seen that. Let them down again, yesterday. The decisions by Joe Girardi that have some people scratching their head this year. The way he uses the bullpen or whatever. I would not have put a reliever in the game yesterday that, yes, he has a high strikeout rate, but he also walks a ton of people. It can be wild. I would not have put him in that high leverage situation yesterday. That was curious to me. Maybe he didn't have somebody available that he would have otherwise used, but you question the way Joe Girardi's bullpen selection is right now. And the defense for the Phillies is lacking. That lets them down. That has let them down time and again. And the offense is with the Bryce Harper out, with JT Realmuto out recently, Didi Gregorius out.
Look,
and not getting a lot of production.
Look, here's the thing: if you're going to put an outfield, you're going to put a starting outfield together. And again, this won't be again because we're going to get to this next point that I have here. But he started an outfield of Quinn, he started Metuchen, and he started help me out here. I'm thinking Herrera. Thank you. So you have Herrera, you had Quinn, and you had Metuchen. I'm sorry. If you start an outfield like that, if you're starting an outfield with those three guys, you're not a very good team. You're just not a very good. Metuchen is basically done. He's basically finished as a player. Herrera is basically a replacement player at best. And then, of course, you got Quinn, who predictably, and I think, look, he made it all the way to the end. He made it all the way to Memorial Day, so you give the guy credit. But all joking aside, obviously, Roman Quinn obviously most likely tore his Achilles. So his season is most likely over, and his career is most likely over at this point. So, but he was only good for speed. I mean, you can't. There's an old rule: you can't steal first base, and that was Roman Quinn's problem. Is the fact that he go up there and he was he couldn't hit. So he was great. Yeah, he was great. He was a great speed guy, but you can't steal first base. So
I'll tell you what though.
Roman Quinn.
For today, I'll tell you what though. For today, I'm a Phillies fan. I need the Phillies. Yankees were in third place, 3.5 games behind. I need Phillies to win today. All right. I need all that negative talk that Jay was talking about the team to do a 180 for today. And going into tomorrow, the Yankees need to do their thing because you're in third place, 3.5 games behind. You're behind the Rays, who's leading your division. You're behind the Red Sox, and you verse the Red Sox tomorrow. The series starts. The Yankees need a win, and they need to keep capitalizing. And I need the Rays to start losing.
I got to ask you this, Alex. What can you do about this Yankee lineup? I don't think there's a whole lot you can do. It is what it is, and
exactly.
A lot of people complaining right now about this lineup. Sure, you have Judge hitting a bunch of homers. I mean that's okay. That's all well and good, but this lineup altogether is not scoring runs. I mean they're just not putting up a whole lot of runs. That's been the big problem for the Yankees. And
it's been a big problem. It's one thing like I talked about the last show we were on when we talked about the Yankees. Yeah, they're the Bronx Bombers, but I'd rather sacrifice the home runs that I expect to see from Judge, Stanton, or Sanchez and stuff, and I'd rather get the bat on the ball. I'd rather see some more contact hitting at that rate, right? We had a lot of COVID issues recently, and coming off those COVID issues, you see Gleyber Torres tear it up. I'll give Judge his props. He's the only guy batting over 300. He's the only guy in double digits in home runs, but I want to see the more contact hitting. getting the ball or getting the bat on the ball, not straining the runners on base. That's one thing that needs to start working. Like you said, Jeff, it is what it is. They're not completely out of it. There's still a lot of season left to be played. It could be a small pivotal point right now. If the Rays lose, the Yankees can take advantage of this next series coming up. It's going to be big for them right now because you don't want to go further down your depth chart, or not your depth chart. The standings list. You can't go into this game tomorrow being down 4 games. Versus let's say the Rays win, you can't lose today. You're down 4 games. You can't have that.
Plus, Alex, you got that team that was lousy last year, but has had rejuvenation, and they're looking forward to obviously having a full Fenway Park, and that is those Boston Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
They look to be back this season. We had in Memorial Day weekend, and that means it's a 3-horse race right there in the East. I mean, you got Toronto that can be a little bit of a pain in the butt there. Of course, you have Baltimore all the way in the back, but you have that 3-horse race right there with Tampa and New York and Boston, and don't forget about those Red Sox because they're right there, right in the mix, with Tampa and the Yankees.
Yeah, they're like a game out of it. They're in second place. They snuck up at one point. The Yankees were in second, and this is what happens. But there's a lot of season left to be played. This is an important series coming up from the Rays. I know I'm kind of sounding repetitive, not the Rays, the Yankees. Because listen. You can't fall 4 or 5 games now this early. You can't. You can't work yourself out that hole. Because going on the rest of the season, what happens if the Blue Jays sneak up on you? And if they start playing at home? And what if their tides turn? You got to take advantage of it now. I'm a Phillies fan today. Let's hope the Phillies beat the Rays. And let's hope the Yankees pull off a win and they keep a little mini win streak going. Because guess what? Yankees win the next 3 games in a row. They're a half a game. They're probably tied for first, depending how the Red Sox play. But the Rays are shifting down. The Yankees are moving up. It's pivotal. It's really important. I want to see a lot of contact. I'm hoping Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu can really get the bat on ball and drive in some RBIs.
LeMahieu is a great player. I got to tell you, I just want to see more. I mean, the home runs are nice, and it's always nice.
The home runs are nice.
Play.
We don't have that luxury right now.
And gets them into runs in scoring position.
You gotta get them. Yep.
That's you gotta get these guys home. You gotta manufacture some of these runs, and that's a problem across baseball. It's not just the Yankees or the Phillies. That's been a problem across baseball. The fundamentals of baseball. And I'll put this to Shane as an overall baseball question. What do you think is going on with this generation of players not being able to put the ball in play and accepting all these strikeouts and just saying, oh, well, I struck out. And these managers just being okay with this because it just seems like there's a growing acceptance, Shane, across baseball of these strikeouts, whereas back in the day, managers would just, hate it. They'd really go at players hard for striking out. It used to be a sin to strike out, and now it's just simply a part of the game. Shane?
Yeah, not only the managers, but the players themselves. The players themselves used to get mad. It wasn't just the managers. Players were more upset too that they'd strike out because they were reading things. Now, like you said, it's like, you know what? It's going to happen. Just accept it. Move on. The next guy will pick it up. But you know what? Analytics, they look at too many videos. They look at everything that way to find out where the strike zone is for them and everything like this. And like I said, the game, and we talked about this last too, the game is more video. The game is more technology than the game itself of being played, just eyes out there only. You know what I mean? And that's really what's come down to when it comes to this generation. These guys, they're getting paid 100 million plus, whether I hit the ball or I don't hit the ball. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of different scenarios and incentives in their contracts where, yes, if I make a certain amount of hits, if I make a certain amount of home runs, if I RBI, everything like this, that plays a big factor. But a lot of them now are just, they're okay. They've been told that it's okay to not take what you don't feel comfortable with. And that's what's happening out there. And these guys are just not uncomfortable to be more effective, though. That's the thing. You got to start getting a little bit more uncomfortable, take those chances, do what you got to do, and make something happen. I think you get more fans that are going, oh, I like the way they're swinging at this. You know, it was close. Then just watch it come by like this all the time. You know what I mean? So, like, I agree with you. They're hidden. They got to start doing a little bit more eyes on, hands on, instead of just looking at the computer screen and see where the zone is. See, this is where he's always picking. You see this? No. Get out of that. Start playing the game the way it should be played.
And with that, unless we have anything else we want to discuss.
Oh yeah, Jeff, absolutely. I think we need to touch on a breaking MLB story that dropped last night about the Braves' Marcell Ozuna and the fact that he was charged and arrested on domestic violence counts. Apparently, he grabbed his girlfriend by the neck, threw her against the wall, and hit her with a cast on his arm. Currently, he's on the injured list.
Yeah, and he wrote a story on this on Mesmerized.
Yep, and now Major League Baseball has a zero tolerance when it comes to domestic violence. The Braves issued a statement saying that they are aware of the situation that went on with Marcell Ozuna, but they are deferring all comments, all questions to the Major League Baseball office. They're not going to answer any questions on it. So they issued their routine statement, team statement on it. That's what teams do now. So Major League Baseball, I'm sure the Braves are conducting their investigation as well. So Marcell Ozuna, who's already on the injured list, may not come off. You may not see him in a Braves uniform. Who knows if you see him again, or he might be out for the rest of the season. Most definitely, I would think he would get like a 50-game suspension at least. So you may not see him again for the rest of the season. I think it would be tough for the Braves to bring him back this season. And there are already
something like this is a felony and carries a minimum sentence of 3 years, maximum of 20.
Yeah, I agree with Mike that baseball is very low on the list here. Forget about him playing. I mean, he's got to worry about staying out of jail. I think that's the first thing that goes on here, because that's first and foremost is
he's got to stay out of jail before he can even think about
that could come from this. So I think you got to look at that first, and baseball will do its investigation, and there's no place for this obviously in any sport, let alone baseball. So we have to take it as it comes. So but we'll have to see how this story develops. But again, I think baseball is below obviously what the authorities and what comes out of this as far as any charges are concerned for Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, but I mean, just looking at it from a baseball perspective, Marcell Ozuna was one of the up-and-coming baseball players for the Atlanta Braves. This hurts Atlanta. They're already struggling without him in the lineup, and who knows when they're going to get him back, if they ever do again, because Atlanta may not want to bring him back. I mean, you saw what happened with Odubel Herrera on the Phillies. Who knows what happens with Marcell Ozuna in the world of Major League Baseball going forward. But you're right, Jeff, that, baseball is secondary. You want Marcell Ozuna to get the help that he needs. And we'll see what happens on that front. But from the Braves standpoint, they lost one of their better hitters in their lineup.
I know he was one of their better hitters, but he was okay. He wasn't one of their better hitters. I mean, he's not Freddie Freeman by any stretch, or Ronald Acuna Jr. So no, I mean, he was a decent player, but let's not put him up there with the better hitters in the lineup. I'll look up very quickly what he was hitting, but yeah, I mean, he was, not, one of their, I don't, we'll have to see. I'll have to see what he was hitting here. But again,
And the Chargers are
looking
missing
at,
the battery
looking at the Braves as a whole. I mean, the Braves have been a mass unit, and that's one of the problems. It's the fact that they've had a lot of injuries going on, and the Mets last night took full advantage of it. So
extreme full advantage. Wait, did we lose you guys?
No, we're here. There we go.
There we are. What happened there?
So
A little
Mark,
technical issue. So you were saying, Jeff?
yeah, I'm just looking up Marcell Ozuna here. I want to see what he was actually hitting here.
Okay. But yeah, I think he needs to get the help that he needs. That's first and foremost. Major League Baseball probably needs to suspend him, send a message that, once again, that they do not tolerate domestic violence. Again, that'll be first and foremost after they do their investigation. And then secondly, looking at it from the Braves standpoint, like I said, they are going to lose a good player on their team for an extended period of time, and they're already struggling this year. So not having Marcell Ozuna in the lineup definitely will hurt their playoff chances going forward.
I mean, he was hitting 208, Jay. So I would say that they're not going to miss him as much as you think.
Well, he was one of their up and coming players. I will say that.
I mean, for his career, 3,900 at bats, career 273 hitter,
Which isn't bad.
He had 1,000 hits, so a decent player. I'll say that. I mean, a decent player, but as far as 2021 goes, 213 batting average, 7 home runs. So like I said, he was okay. He's not exactly like I said, he's not exactly Freddie Freeman. So
yeah, but a lot of players are down this year, Jeff. So that's all across baseball.
He's not. I'm just saying that he's not. I just don't. 213 hitter. I just don't see him. As being. He's not Ronald Acuna Jr. or Freddie Freeman. He's not going to impact the Braves. Losing this guy is not going to impact the Braves as much as he will.
I think it will. He's he's a 270 hitter career wise. That's what you said.
Yeah, career-wise, a 270 hitter.
Yeah, so, but what I'm saying is average. You can't necessarily go by this year. Averages are down all across baseball.
Right, he's a 270 hitter. He's not exactly, like I said, he's not exactly Freddie Freeman or Ronald Acuna Jr. So let's not build this guy up and say, oh my God, the Braves are going to disintegrate without this guy. Now, if this guy was Freddie Freeman or Ronald Acuna Jr., now you've got something. This guy, okay, they lose this guy, okay, he's a little bit better than replacement. So, you go from there.
A lot better than replacement. Come on.
Jay, you what are you trying to He's not one of the top players on the team. But that's a least of the Braves, because that's a least of his concerns right now is picking up a bat at this point. As it stands now, is there any other baseball we got to get to?
No, I'm good. Everybody else good?
Then we'll move on to hockey, because we got to get to some hockey here before we end the show here, because this has been just a tremendous hockey season there, Shane. It has really gotten hot and heavy. And, we've seen some Game 7s. We're going to have another Game 7 here up in Canada. I enjoyed last night's game, obviously. Finally, some fans were able to attend the game, obviously, between Toronto and Montreal. Montreal obviously winning in overtime, which is thrilling for them. They force a Game 7. And all kinds of panic right now in Toronto, Shane. I mean, they're right now having night sweats right now in Toronto as Montreal, looks like, they could pull the upset here and eliminate the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Hey, like we always said, there's upsets in every sport. The Jets did it against the Oilers. You're seeing Toronto now filter down. Montreal taking its stand. I could almost think this game could go to overtime again. You know what I mean? That's how tough this game is. This series is that tough, right? And you know what? Whoever comes out, Montreal or Toronto, they are two very good teams. There's no question about that. Toronto, though, has a lot more at stake. They got a lot more at stake with the players, the roster that they have, because on paper, they look much, much better. Just like Edmonton looked much, much better. You know what I mean? So there's a lot more at stake there. But like I said, you nailed it by saying NHL has been phenomenal with these teams, how well they've played, upsets, sweeps, everything like that. I mean, you've seen some good games out there, no question about it, and you're seeing some great series. And as they move forward, I think you're going to see a lot more intense games too. So like I said, kudos to all these teams, but I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this one, that's for sure.
And we go into today's game, Shane, and I'm looking at the Tampa, an underdog.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Like I said, you know, it's very unique there with certain things because, like I said, is these teams, they look at the records and they're looking and saying, okay, listen, you know what I mean? Who you just played against is one thing, right? And won your series. But now you're looking and saying who you got coming up. So like I said, for Tampa to be dog, I can see that right now. If they win, then you're going to see that quickly flip. And I think you're also going to see a higher number because I don't think Tampa actually showed playing against Florida there how good they are to up their level of being favorites. You know what I mean? So like I said, it's going to be the way the odds are, the way Vegas works and things like that. You really got to demonstrate that series before of being in total control. And I mean, like I said, I just don't see Tampa being that way. And they're going to have a hard fight. Tampa's going to have a hard fight as they move forward here.
Carolina's going to put up a fight there. So, we'll see.
Carolina, you give Rod Brindamore all the credit in the world for the way they're coaching and stuff. Like, he's great out there. They're doing everything right. You know what I mean?
Well, we saw that in Philly, for so long. I mean, Brandon Moore was such a favorite, in Philadelphia, playing for the Flyers, and now we're just seeing him translate that to being a head coach. He's tremendous. I mean, I gotta say that, and for Carolina to turn the world champions into an underdog, that's saying something. But looking at the West, I think Vegas right now is breathing a huge sigh of relief. But on the other hand, are they breathing a huge sigh of relief? Because they go right into the frying pan right now because now they get Colorado. They come right up this game 7, and now they come and they got Colorado. And this may be the best series in the whole playoffs. I mean, everybody, was looking and dialing it down. What series did you want to see going into these playoffs? You wanted to see Vegas and Colorado. Well, here it is. It starts today, Shane. It's served up on a silver platter. So here we go. Vegas and Colorado.
And the thing is too is Colorado looked amazing against St. Louis. They didn't teeter, they didn't do anything. They just went out there and played. McKinnon was on fire, everything like this. Vegas had a hard time against Minnesota, and that's not a good thing. Vegas have had a hard time against Minnesota. Those two games, those two teams swept through. They should have swept through. So like I said, Vegas is far from the team, and they got Pacioretty back. I get that. But Vegas is not that team that you think should be able to just walk in and take over. And that's what I'm saying. Colorado is that team right now, has more. They've been rested up. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be a lot of problems for Vegas to try to control.
Yeah, I think Colorado's going to win this series. I think it goes 6 or 7 games, but I think Colorado wins. I've been very impressed with Colorado all year. They've had just a tremendous season to me, and they look to be rolling right now. I mean, now I know, I know Vegas has Marc-Andre Fleury. I know they have the goalie. This guy's won 3 cups. I know what he's done in his past. I know all that, but I just see Colorado as coming into this and being a slightly better team there, Shane, than Vegas. Even if they got Marc-Andre Fleury in the game.
Oh, I mean, no question about it. Look at Fleury. You got to give him credit. The man has done very well in his career this far and everything like that. But he hasn't won Vegas a championship either, though. He hasn't won Vegas. What I mean? Like something always happens. And Colorado, I think, is going to be that team that's going to take them again and take out and move on to face whoever is up here in the north that goes. All right. I just think Vegas, though, is also injured up too much. I think they've got too many problems on the defense, and get into production on their power plays either, and things like this. So they're in for a tough. Vegas is in for a tough. And you're right. I mean, you can see the game going five games, maybe 6. All right, but I won't put it past that. I think Colorado is just too strong, and if they do lose, when they do lose a game, they're going to bounce back real.
And in the East, Shane, last night we saw the Boston Bruins flex their muscles, obviously, against the Islanders. The Islanders obviously want to prove last year wasn't a fluke and what they did in the playoffs. But these Bruins are going to be extremely tough. They've got some great players. They got a good goalie. I'm looking at the Bruins right now as being, this is going to be a war. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to say it. These two franchises obviously don't really like each other all that much. And here we go. With in the East, obviously you're going to have this series, and I like Boston coming out of this series against the Islanders. I really do, because and they showed something last night with the hat trick and so forth. I just think Boston may be slightly better right now than the Islanders.
Yeah, there's no question. Boston also has better experience of being in playoffs. How many years, that they keep going, and you're right. The goaltending makes a difference. They're getting production from every line, which is another huge thing. Islanders from the playoff start, before getting the playoffs, they have problems. I mean, Trotz was yelling at these guys like no tomorrow because they were having issues to get themselves motivated and going. So, like I said, Boston is just that team that just like, look, we've been here and we're not going to take it lightly. We don't underestimate you, but we definitely are not going to lose to you. That's their attitude. I mean, that's Boston's attitude. That's a Boston mentality. Simple. And like I said, they're going to play tough. Islanders, I think, will try to put up a fight. But like I said, personally, I'm with you. I got Boston in this all the way.
Yeah, and again, we'll have to see, obviously, who matches up, obviously, and kind of to see, who matches up against Winnipeg out there, because Winnipeg is just, out there with their feet up right now, waiting for an opponent out there. So we'll just have to wait a little bit longer to see their opponent. But Winnipeg looks awfully good right now. I'm like you said, they took out. And again, if you look at, some of these names that are now gone from the playoffs, you got Ovechkin right now. He's gone. He's out of the playoffs. You look at, Pittsburgh, they're out of the playoffs. So it is a changing of the guard right now as far as the NHL goes at this point, that you're seeing some of these other teams kind of rise up, and these players that have been there, for a while, are giving way to some of these younger players there, Shane.
Yep. And also looking at very hot goaltenders too. I mean, that's the other thing. We've all said the same thing. If your goaltender gets hot going into the playoffs, you're going to ride them, and you're going to see exactly what they can do for your team and how much they perform and step up. And you're seeing that out of all these teams that have won in advance, their goaltenders have been that hot. So like I said, this is and you need that. So right now, expect battles. And as we get into these next rounds, I think you're going to see a little bit more different on some of these goal productions too because of that. And that's what's going to get into more overtimes and a lot more difficulties for certain teams to make things happen, that you're going to start seeing maybe some of those real goals, as they say, because the goaltender is that good.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens, obviously, today. I'm looking forward, obviously, to seeing Colorado and Vegas. I think that's going to be a good series. We'll see what happens today with that. Mike Nibia, we got to get to the Indy 500. I want to let you kind of espouse on this because they're going to put over 100,000 people in the stands today. You know, it's going to be a throwback, obviously, a few years ago. You know, getting back through this COVID era, you know, we're putting 100,000 people in the stands here to watch the Indy 500 there, Mike.
Yes, they normally put over 300,000 people in today. 115,000 people are set to watch the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indy 500. And I think it's going to be a very good race. Throwback to when we could gather in person without the threat of a virus. And it's a sign of things slowly getting back to normal. And I've already made my pick. I'm going to be picking my guy, Elio Castroneves.
Oh, you took my pick there, Mike. I love him. He's a great driver and a great open wheel driver. I think he's
going to get number 4 today.
Yeah,
500 number 4 today.
Yeah,
they're doing opening ceremonies right now over on NBC.
Oh, it's always great, you know, to see the Brickyard and you know, to see it finally back on Memorial Day weekend, where the Indy 500 should be, and you know, seeing all these fans in the stands, it's just tremendous.
You have to be there in person to get the spectacle that is the pageantry that comes along with it, the military salute, and back home again in Indiana.
Now, I wonder, Mike, because I've always thought that, which do you prefer more, the Daytona 500 or the Indianapolis 500?
Oh, don't make me choose, man! Don't make me choose. Jeez.
Because I'll tell you, both those races are appealing, except for the fact that it just seems like the Daytona 500 has been snaked as far as rain goes. So
yeah, the Daytona 500 has been plagued by rain these past few years.
Yes.
About the only thing that's plagued the Indy 500 is COVID.
But it's you know, but it's always a great spectacle to see. Obviously, you know what happened. You know, the drinking of the milk, obviously after the race, and getting back to, you know, the traditions, obviously that we had pre-pandemic. So, well, I think everybody will enjoy watching this race as it comes up in just a few minutes.
And at 12:37, green flag 12:41.
Yeah, we're getting there. 12:23 right now. So, Jay, anything else we need to add?
Oh yeah, a couple things. Big stories from the week here. One has to do with the fans in sports. We've had 2 fans, one banned from the Wells Fargo Center and one banned from, I believe it's Madison Square Garden, for 2 separate incidents. One was the fan was banned from the Wells Fargo Center for dumping pot.
For dumping what?
You're going in and out, Jay. Yeah, the one fan was, just to let everybody know, because my brother's been going in and out. One fan was banned from the Wells Fargo Center for throwing popcorn on a player, and the other fan obviously was banned for spitting on a player. So we've had some rowdy behavior, of course. You know, we had some behavior, obviously. The U.S. Open last Sunday with gathering all around Phil Mickelson and doing all that. So we've had some, you know,
pushing the level of Mouse the Palace 2.0.
Yes, it's you know, fans are definitely you know, putting themselves in the spotlight, and not in a good way as far as I'm concerned. So
I even need to mention
fans have got to enjoy themselves, contain themselves, but not go and be throwing popcorn on players or spitting on players. I think that's going, and again, they deserve the punishment they got, no question about it. And you know, I hope this is a lesson for anybody who feels that, you know, they want to, you know, try and, you know, be a story as far as throwing popcorn or
Just don't be a story in the for the wrong reasons.
Making themselves a story. That's why I think, look, if we make it into a story, then it gives them spots. So you really don't want to talk about even all that much.
Yeah,
because
don't be a story for the wrong reasons.
These people any more press than they've already gotten. So
do I even need to mention the incidents at Yankee Stadium and Citi Field that involved fans? I don't think I should.
Yeah. I mean, no, I disagree with you, Jeff. I think that these fans should be raked through the media because you had
the ringer.
I think you had the people in the Wells Fargo Center that were sitting around this guy, absolutely pointing him out, which was absolutely the right thing to do, so that he got ejected, and now he's been banned from the Wells Fargo
Center. But he's getting the attention he's getting. He wants attention. This guy wanted attention, and he's getting that.
But if you put him out there and you say this fan is banned from the Wells Fargo Center for throwing popcorn,
but did he get the attention? Did he get everybody talking about him? Yes, he did. Now, didn't he?
No.
Yes.
No.
You're going in and out.
Nobody knows his name. But here's the thing: you put his name out there and you say, and you bring charges against the guy. Not felony charges or anything like that, but something where he has to pay like a $500 fine or something like that.
I don't know if this guy even cared. He was throwing popcorn on a player. I don't think this guy even cared. He was out there to try to make a story for him.
If you shame him on social media and put his name out there and say this guy threw popcorn, he's gonna get his.
You're putting his name on social media, so now he's getting even more attention out there. Tremendous.
But it's getting shamed. He's getting shamed, and his boss.
Do you think he cares that he's getting shamed?
Yes, I think.
Have you ever heard this thing? Remember Eric Bischoff's book, "Controversy Creates Cash." It's always better to be controversial,
but not negative. If I throw popcorn on a guy, on an NBA player, right, and my boss hears about, and I'm working a 9-to-5 job, and I'm having charges brought against me, misdemeanor charges or whatever, my boss hears about it, that can affect my job, and my name is out there in the media saying Jay Selner threw popcorn on an NBA player.
That was his goal. Do you know that wasn't his goal to begin with? He
wanted to
throw popcorn on a player and do that. I mean, come on.
He didn't know.
So you're telling me you have seen a quote from this guy saying that he did not know what he was doing? You saw
he knew he was throwing popcorn on the NBA player. Absolutely.
Right. Because he wanted attention. He wanted to get attention for himself.
Okay. And now he's banned from the Wells Fargo Center.
Right. So
that's what he wanted. That's what you're saying. That was an idiot.
I'm not defending him. I'm not defending this guy anyway.
You're saying.
What I'm saying is, this guy wanted to get attention, so he threw popcorn on the player, and everybody.
All right. So you're defending him. So you're defending him then?
I'm not defending this guy in any way. I'm telling you, this guy's an asshole.
Yeah, he is, and that's why you put his name out there so his job can be affected.
This guy mentally may just be saying, "Hey, look, it's the same kind of guys who run on the field that says it's bad hard."
And you're saying, why
do they do it? Why do they do it in the first place?
Because they're drunk. Because half the time they're drunk.
Yeah, exactly. They're drunk there, and it puts a bad name. Puts a bad name.
But he doesn't get any recognition. But he doesn't get any recognition for it.
He gets people talking about him.
No, how? Who? What's his name? Do you know? I don't know. It doesn't get people talking about him.
You're talking about a guy. You just brought up a guy who threw popcorn on a player.
That's fine, but what's his name? And how can we shame him? He's being shamed all across the media. The Philadelphia,
and justifiably so. But this guy made this guy
and put his name out there.
And I'm speculating here. For all I know, this guy wanted to get some sort of spotlight put on him.
He wanted to do something. He wanted to do something bad to the player, and he did. and now he's banned from the Wells Fargo Center. But if you put his name out there, which rightfully they should do, so that charges can be brought against him, so that his job can be affected, fans will no longer do this.
Oh, really? So fans,
Yes.
so fans are automatically just going to stop doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, okay. Well, but
All
I'll
right.
believe that
If you put-
because I think you're always going to have some kind of fan who comes up and decides.
I
they
disagree.
want to do it.
I disagree. I say if the name is out there and my job is affected and I can become unemployed.
That's that guy personally, but that's not going to stop other fans from doing the rowdy behavior and doing dumb things.
I believe it. If I know beforehand, if I throw popcorn or I throw an object or I spit on a player or whatever, I can get banned from the stadium. My job can be affected, and I'm going to get at the very least fined. Yeah, that'll stop this behavior, absolutely. And
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. I think that rowdy behavior is just there are always going to be one or two knuckleheads that are going to be out there that are going to do dumb things, and whether or not it's not going to be based on what everybody did in the past. It's just going to be the fact that they're drunk and they're doing dumb things, and they want to, and they just decide that they're going to do something. But it sort of seems like everybody just, runs on that. You still have fans who run on the field in these ballparks, just as they want to do.
Hey, if my job can be affected because my name is out there and my name is being trashed on social media to prevent me from getting another one in the near future, damn, I'm going to think twice about doing it.
Is there anything else we need to get to?
Yes, one other story. There was a concession worker for the Chicago White Sox that had a section named after her. She's about 85 years old. She'd been working as a concessionaire for the Chicago White Sox for about 60 years. And she had a section of the stands named after her. They put a big sign up there. It was her section, and they honored her in that fashion in a previous year. And now all of a sudden they tore down the sign and they renamed it after Tony La Russa.
What?
And yes, they renamed
that is second wrong.
They renamed it after Tony La Russa. Let me see if I can get her name. Her name was Loretta Miceli, Micele. She was hired to work the concession stands at the old Comiskey Park back in, what was it? I'm trying to read here, around 1945 or so. And she'd been with the White Sox. She's now 85 years old. She had a section of the stands, a section of the seating area by her concession stand named after her. And the White Sox apparently took down the sign and renamed it La Russa's Lounge. Absolutely a disgraceful move, I think, by the Chicago White Sox.
Chicago White Sox, you are an absolute disgrace.
Absolutely agree, Mike. If you're going to honor, and it was a great honor to do that for her because she'd been with the White Sox for as long as she had, doing her job for as long as she had, and a great honor. And to do that was I could understand maybe if you were honoring a prior player, a historical player, something like that. Maybe or whatever. But there's other sections that you could name it after that player. You didn't have to tear down her sign. But to do it for Tony La Russa, who just this year became manager of the White Sox, who,
he is a Hall of Famer. So. I'd say future Hall of Famer because he came back.
But what connection does he have prior to this year with the Chicago White Sox?
Exactly.
Other than the owner being a big fan of his, he had no real connection to the White Sox. Other than that, to do that to this worker is, like Mike said, I completely agree with him, is an outrage. It's atrocious. It's disgusting. I stand with everybody who objects to it. Absolutely a horrible move by the Chicago White Sox. Absolutely. And that's my rant on the Chicago White Sox, Jeff.
Very good. Well, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today on the Sports Skillet Radio Show presented by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. We thank, obviously, Shane McGowan for joining us. We thank Mike Nibia for joining us, obviously, as well as all our fans and all the Jeff Schwab, obviously, for putting in a question, as well as we appreciate all the comments. Please continue to keep them coming. We really do appreciate it. We thank Alex Secchia for joining us as well, right here on the Sports Go Radio Show. We hope everyone has a very enjoyable Memorial Day weekend. Please remember to pray for all those lost in our country due to war. And remember, while we celebrate this weekend to begin with, it's not all about hot dogs, hamburgers, and parades. It's about those who have given their lives in defense of our nation. So please remember them on this Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk to you again next week, first weekend in June. So have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again next week.
Stays right where Allen wants to go. Wants the baseline. Fade away.